Fans of a Horus Hearsay, thank you very much for joining me and Jay for a bonus Legion of Cheese episode. Good evening, Jay. How are you?
I'm doing well, mate. How's yourself?
I'm very well. Yes, very well. I'm really intrigued because some things are happening, isn't it, on the social medias with regards to our favourite grimdark origin story of the Horus Heresy.
It is indeed. This isn't what we had planned for the sort of next episode. As you say, this is a wee bit of a bonus. We had something completely different in mind, and then they drop a bit of tongue in cheek, shall we say?
Well, yes, very tongue-in-cheek. And that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. So a quick recap, I guess, before we get into it. So I'm sure nobody's missed the fact that I introduced this as a Horus Hearsay. So the Horus Hearsay is basically, I'll describe it almost, it's a bit of a viral marketing campaign, isn't it, that Games Workshop has initiated.
Yeah, it's almost like a faux one of their pages.
Mm.
Because they normally have the sort of, we'll go into it as you say in a few minutes when we talk about the design and things, but they always have a sub page for their main game systems. But in this instance, they've created one for this, which is fake.
I don't know, maybe is it fake? I mean, hearsay, while it's technically inadmissible as evidence in court, it can still be true.
And they do say at the bottom of the page, this is 100% legit Warhammer website.
It does, yep. The listeners, viewers are wondering what we mean. The website is called thehorushearsay.com, all one word. And yeah, at the bottom it does say this is a totally 100% legit Warhammer website, and it does carry all of the Games Workshop corporate web ease that you would expect an official website owned by Games Workshop to do. So this is not just made up. They've published a video on the Warhammer YouTube channel as well. So it's real. It's Friday the 9th of May today, and the first post appeared on Thursday the 8th of May yesterday. We're in 2025 now for posterity. And there'd been a little bit of rumblings, hadn't there, on the social medias over the last couple of weeks about where's Heresy Thursday gone, hadn't there?
Yeah, there had been, as we've talked of before, I think in a few of our chats, and even one of the episodes we were planning, we were talking about how Heresy Thursday does seem to go on peaks and troughs because we'd had the Praetors, we'd had Ketus Nex,
Yeah,
Astacrone, the Tarantulas, and then it went back to radio silence.
it did. It all went, it all
Yeah,
went.
and people I think were expecting Camber Diaz because he's the
Well,
other character in the Martian book, which
yeah,
still hasn't got a mini.
no, indeed it hasn't. And
And then this dropped yesterday morning, as you say, this is the 9th, it dropped on the 8th. On technically Heresy Thursday, we could call it Hearsay Thursday now,
yeah,
but
it
it
is.
wasn't in the standard Hearsay Thursday slot. Normally they tend to drop their social media posts around the start of every hour. So you'll get one at maybe 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m. They always do it around lunchtime for people because obviously that's the peak time for people scrolling on their phones.
Yeah,
I think this was dropped at like 10 past 11 or something like really weird early
it
ish.
was.
It was
Yeah.
definitely before the afternoon. I know that because I was in work.
Yes, you're right. I seem to remember catching it around lunchtime. I think I first saw something on Reddit. I think it was Reddit, or yeah, I saw it on Reddit before anything appeared on Instagram, and I quickly got something up on Instagram. Definitely different, isn't it? What we thought we'd do for this video is just have a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek exercise, very much in the spirit of the Horus Hearsay marketing so far, is to go through the website and rate each of the things that they've teased as either being a lie, a truth, or a meme. And I thought that might be quite good. Or maybe shall we call lies hearsay? I don't know. No, I think we have lies, don't we?
Yeah,
Lies.
we're not going to do LA Noir in this. We're not going to have truth, doubt, or deeper context in a little pocketbook.
So that's what we're going to do mainly. But the other reason for this is a bit about what we've observed about the wider panoply of what Games Workshop is up to this year, and that is that there's no core game, or neither of the two core games are due for an edition update. So 40k isn't due, so which is currently on 10th edition. Sticking with the 3-year cycle will be next year. AOS was last year, so that's 2 years down the line. So there's kind of like a gap in the marketing calendar, and they always do a big summer release, don't they?
They do. They do. We spoke about this a few times before, especially considering as I did work in Games Workshop at one point in time, they're
Mm.
very regular with their timing schedules based around things like, as we know, they always get the big boxes at Christmas, but there's always something in the summer to maximize GB summertime for the kids
Mm.
getting off school, because
Absolutely.
that's peak time for parents, unfortunately, whose kids are now at home, who are maybe driving them strange, and they're like, if we get him some toys, he'll be out of my hair for 5 minutes.
Absolutely, yeah. And before the Horus Hearsay appeared yesterday, we talked a couple of times about what is it going to be this year. And now this has appeared. Well, there's something happening with the Heresy, isn't there? And
Yeah.
there's no way that Games Workshop would run a campaign like this for the fun of it. And I don't think they would just do it just for, to quote, the memes.
No, I don't think they would
They
do
don't
that
pay
either.
they don't pay the marketing staff just to make memes, run customers to nowhere. There's a purpose to everything they do with regards
Yeah,
to
yeah,
sort of, the business and selling stuff. So it's looking like this year's big summer release is going to be something Horus Heresy.
yeah. It puts me in mind of the previous two of these sort of visual marketing tongue-in-cheek things they did, which
Mm.
was the first one they did. It was Duncan in a room, and I can't remember what happened, but like a clock broke, and they were like, "Oh no, we have to set the clock back,"
Yeah,
and that was the start of the release of the Sisters.
it was, yeah. Was that the famous 3 clocks?
It was, yes, because one of
Yeah.
them was one of them not like a plastic Thunderhawk. It was another joke in the background
There,
because they love putting visual jokes in the background of the joke they're actually making.
there were 3 clocks, weren't there? There was the Plastic Sisters, Plastic Thunderhawk, and Plastic Squats. Now, technically, 2 of those have happened. So, well, 2 asterisk have happened, and the third, well, they've done a small Plastic Thunderhawk.
Yeah, yeah. So you can argue that yes, technically, it's not the Thunderhawk we want, but it is a Thunderhawk. It's like when I say to my wife, "Buy me a Thunderhawk,"
Yeah, you'll get
and
those.
she
Yeah.
bought the Legions Imperialis one. Now she was right; it's just not the one I wanted.
You see, you weren't specific enough there, were you?
Oh no, I was specific. I said, "Buy me the Forge World Thunderhawk," and she just gave me that look and said, "I
Oh.
will get you a Thunderhawk." And I go, "Oh, it
Okay,
just wasn't
oh,
the one
fair
I
enough.
wanted."
You said what you wanted, but you got what you deserved.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, then the second one was the spoof job interview,
Mm.
where the two people were asking questions to a model, and in the background it was a picture of Corvus Corax, and it said, "Have you seen this Primarch?" And they were like, "We think you've got the chops to be the chapter master." And the
Mm.
camera pivoted, and it was the old Kevin Shrike fourth ed metal stroke finecast, and
Ah,
that was his reveal for his
prom.
Primaris variant,
Yeah.
and how we were getting the new gen of some of the older characters.
Mm.
I think there's been, say, a few more, but off the top of
Mm.
my head, they're the only two that I remember.
They do,
And I think
yes.
there was one about Zotes as well.
What about Zotes?
What about Zotes?
Yes, there was. Yes, there was like some sort of aging rocker sitting in a business room or like a room with all these suits, and he's like, "What about Zotes?" And he's like, "They're like, yeah, what's a Zote?"
That was great, that one, yeah. Because was that to do with when they did the Zote expansion for?
Blackstone. Yes, that was because they only released it for Blackstone. It was like a splash release. I don't think he's ever been re-released.
Nope.
I'm
No.
glad I bought one then. I didn't even play Blackstone.
That's a bit of a unicorn model. Those fetch big money on eBay these days. They got quite a narrow release. But yes, and what was the other one I was thinking of? Yeah, the Plastic Thunderhawk ad. That was definitely tongue in cheek as well, wasn't it? Although I think I mean, I thought it was funny, and I think you thought it was funny, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, no, it did have a bit of a.
Not
I did
everyone.
chuckle. Let's just say, you know.
I thought it was funny, but not everyone on social media thought it was funny. I think some people saw the start of the ad and they thought, "Oh my goodness me, it's actually happening!" The full-size plastic Thunderhawk, and then it was a baby one, and
Yeah,
they,
yeah,
they were crushed.
yeah.
You've got to be very careful with like anti-marketing campaigns because they can so easily go wrong and they can backfire. They can also be incredibly successful. Oh, what's the example? So the example I always remember, and I think it's often quoted in marketing circles as being a successful anti-campaign, was the car advert from, I think this was the mid-noughties. And there was this factory, and they were finishing cars, and there was this guy in his, his sort of like his factory outfit, and he was very carefully finishing this car, and checking it, all the paintwork and the panel gaps and all that sort of stuff. And then he came to stick the badge on the back, yeah.
Okay.
And it was a Skoda badge, and he sort of did a double take on it before he stuck it on. And it was because it was playing on the old reputation of Skodas not being very good from the, let's say, communist bloc era to the sort of modern. And it was that sort of transition into VW Group ownership when the Skodas became quite a respected brand again.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's when tongue-in-cheek marketing or anti-marketing can work well, but yeah, it can also go really badly wrong. That was a bit of a ramble there about why we're talking about this in particular, because it's not just like, oh, we think it's an interesting bit of marketing. I think this is actually building up to something which is going to be quite big for the heresy later this summer.
Yeah, no, definitely. We can discuss, if you want, quickly our original thoughts about what might happen based on timeframes, or do you want to save that till later when we talked about potential timeframes based on GDub being closed and their usual marketing timeframe?
Let's come back to that at the end. I think that'll be a nice way to wrap up that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that was some good insider knowledge and a couple of clever spots you made. So we'll come back to that at the end, to when we think this will happen. All right, so let's talk about the website. So I'll put some screenshots on for the viewers. But yeah, so they've got this website, the Horus Hearsay. Well, gosh, you see, I'm nearly...
You get it wrong.
So again, the HorusHearsay.com.
Yeah.
And they've got the Horus Heresy Warhammer banner, but over Heresy, they've got a piece of silver duct tape, and it says Hearsay in like Sharpie block capitals. So they're using their brand. So straight away it says something there, doesn't it? And it says, get hyped for Heresy, rounding up all the rumours, rumblings, and hearsay on the Age of Darkness. And it says, follow us on Threads and Instagram for the latest news. Interesting, no mention of X. That's how you make a statement without saying something.
Yeah.
But then there's a video, isn't there? So let's have a few thoughts on the video, because that's quite funny. And then we'll go through each little bit, and then we'll go for what we think of it. So the video is basically like these two people in the office, isn't there?
Yeah.
And it starts out with the woman, and she says, have you seen what's on the marketing calendar? And then, a colleague looks across and goes, mm-hmm. She says, the new edition of the Horus Heresy is coming out. She's like excited, go. And then he kind of goes, mm. And then he said, I think that's just hearsay. And then she sort of like gives him that look and goes, you've been waiting ages to say that, haven't you? And then it goes back to his face and he goes, yeah. And he does his little smug look. And that'll make a great gif, I think.
Yeah.
But right at the end of that, you watch his eyebrows and he does.
He looks directly into the camera and raises his eyebrows. It's the same look that, I know this, obviously the reference I'm going to make is a CG character.
Yeah.
But do you remember the trailer for Warhammer Total War 3?
Ooh.
The original one where Katarina goes out and fights the demons, and it says Total War 3 coming 2021, and it cuts back to her advisor in the tent, and he is looking at the map, and he pushes away a lot of guff that's sitting on the table, and you see the map of Cathay and a statue of the Jade Dragon. And he looks up at the camera and he does the same eyebrow thing, like, you know what's happening. And everybody went nuts because we were going to get Cathay in the game.
So I wonder if that's a little nod there, because that video is full of little nods and memes and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
What things did we spot? Right, first one, on the back of one of the people's computers, it has a post-it note saying hazard stripe paint ?
Yeah. There's another one says Liber Hereticus.
Yep.
For some reason, maybe a little joke to say, are we getting another one? Or maybe not.
Yeah. And there's right in the background, there's a picture, it says Codex ? And then it's got a picture of a Jacaro.
Yeah.
Of Rogue Trader era. So Codex Jacaro, I thought that was just great. That's very good memes, that is. What else was there? There was a couple of things about meeting dates. There was one that says something or something 8/5. Now 8/5 in UK English nomenclature is the 8th of May.
Yeah, which was the day that this went live.
That's right, yeah. So that's what that is. Then there was another post-it note. Did you see the other date post-it note?
No, which one was that?
Well, that says meeting with Anya 6/24. So 6/24 again in UK date terms is the 24th of June.
Yeah.
So there's a hint there. Maybe something's going to happen on the 24th of June.
24th of June, those a Tuesday. Normally they wouldn't have anything random unless it's going to be a post. To have something on a Tuesday would be a bit weird.
Maybe that's a lie, though.
Yeah. I hate to say it, but you know what the 28th would have been perfect for?
What?
The 28th is a Saturday, 2 weeks before the 12th of July, which is the Saturday that we're going to talk about later on.
Maybe the meeting with Anya is something that has to happen before that happens.
Yeah. Although that's just hearsay.
Oh, lying, yes. I'm sure there's a lot of Alpha Legion subterfuge at work there. What else did I see in that video? They had a Joy Toy Redemptor Dreadnought on one of the tests, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
Really impressive models, those. And I wonder
it is massive. Yeah, I'm actually looking at it. It's near reaching the size of his computer screen. And if we take the standard 28-inch size screen, wow,
it's big, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's hinting at something. We'll come back to that, won't we? What else was there? In the shot, when she says, you've been waiting to say that ages, I think it has a view from his desk back towards her desk. Yeah. And just as it transitions to that shot, you can see in the background, there's a glass display case. And one of the models that's clearly in it at the top, on the top shelf, is a Xiphon Interceptor. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually just finding the scene that, yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's in red, so Blood Angels or Thousand Suns.
Or Thousand Suns, but.
Or Word Bearers. But either way,
Is it hinting at something to do with plastic flyers? Because we've not got the Storm Eagle, the Fire Raptor, the Xiphon, any plastic flyers yet, have we?
We haven't. No.
The Legionnaires, of course, apart from, the little lander that could. What's the little shuttle called for the Solar Auxilia?
The Arvis?
Thank you, the Arvis Lighter, yeah. So I wonder if it's hinting at something there. You were just saying something then?
Yeah, so obviously the way they've designed this is obviously an office in one of the main buildings. The one, I think, it looks like the one where the Stormcast is outside. It's got that sort of look to me.
Yeah, I think so.
And they've obviously dressed an office room up to film this rather than using one of their sets for when they do the Warhammer Plus stuff.
Yeah.
So they've either brought minis that are somebody's collection, or as you say, they could be something from that. But I'm actually struggling to remember, at the last time I was at Warhammer World, was there a red Xiphon in any of the cabinets? Because that means either it's cabinet display stuff that they've brought over just to film the scene, potential new stuff that's going into cabinets,
could be new
or it's somebody's collection.
That's a good point, that. The old studio Xiphon was painted in ultramarine colours, wasn't it? Well, when I say studio, the one they have on the Forge World website.
Yeah. Which is also the one you see in the gallery.
Yeah, good observation there. So is it a plastic Xiphon? I don't know. I think we'll put that down as...
It would be nice.
Yeah.
More than not even hearsay, just that would be nice.
It could be true, that, yeah. So it's very tongue-in-cheek, but I also think there's lots of little memes in there as well. There's memes, but I think there's also little hints and Easter eggs. That's the phrase I was thinking of.
Yeah.
That are hidden away there. And, I mean, clearly it's been well filmed, hasn't it? What else does it have in there? Oh, Hazard Strike Paint, Iron Warriors.
Yeah. We've heard that rumor for quite some time from multiple people online that since the Command Squad got released and it had the 4 Legion transfer set of the Salamanders and the Arm Warriors, this led to why these 2 random legions. There must be a reason for that.
Yeah.
And obviously Arm Warriors / Hazard Strike Paint.
Yeah, it's a paint everyone's waiting for, isn't it? But yeah, what else did it say? Liber Hereticus, Dropper. A friend of mine wrote down all the things he observed. Dropper, is that making a nod to Dropper paint pots? I think that's a lie. Then there's something that says Warhammer R unreadable ending in an E. I don't know what that is. Codex Dracaro. When in doubt, add more skulls. I mean, that's just a meme, isn't it?
Yeah.
Drawing of an Ultramarine Lieutenant. speculation based on colours and shape. 0 won a game of noughts and crosses. What could that be?
I don't know. Maybe that's just background stuff to make the set look like an office, because a lot of the stuff they have on their tables is, well, all the stuff on their tables is completely not Heresy related.
Yeah.
You know, there's a Warhammer Giant in the foreground. In the background, as you say, is the Joy Toy Redemptor. The lady who starts talking about the Heresy, she has minis on her desk, which I think are AOS.
Yeah.
So it's just, that could just be set dressing.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. On one of the desks at the front, there's a copy of Imperial Armor Volume 2, which, well, this is another spot by my friends. Thank you for helping me with these. That has all the classic Imperial Guard Forgeal tanks, so things like the Macarius or Macarius and that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's of all the books you could have put there, why put Imperial Armor 2 there? That's a head scratcher for me. So lots going on in the video, and they're clearly promoting something to do with the Heresy. So shall we now have a look at this website and whiz through each of the little things and see what we think it is?
Yeah, sounds good.
Right, so I'm going to start from the end and work our way chronologically forward. And this video may be out of date faster than a ripe pear in a fruit bowl, but we've got to do it at some point, haven't we? So the first thing it says at the bottom is that this is a totally 100% legit Warhammer website. First thing then is rules overhaul. Apparently there's a D18 in the box. Obviously something we've never seen in Heresy before. I mean, has there ever been a D18? Is that geometrically possible? D18, 18 legions, 2 theories on this. Maybe some new mechanic for choosing legion special rules or some sort of legion supremacy role. We'll see if we can find out anything else.
See, this is where I think that is obvious. Well, obviously it's a joke, but I think they've hidden something in plain sight. The box art behind it.
Yes.
I have not seen. I've looked through all the mechanic. It's mostly the Mechanicum that has the orange base. All the Space Marine ones are obviously slightly different. I have seen none of the current Mechanicum sets that have a piece of what looks like kicked up dust. So I think the joke there is there's something in the background, in the foregrounds, look at this instead of that type of thing.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it, isn't it? So this is clearly an Alpha Legion lie. The writing, but in the image there is a truth. Yeah, I think the bit about the dice is, I'm going to go with lie, but I think that corner there, I reckon that's something to do with a new product, either rule book or some, like if there's a battle force or a new box set. I reckon that's just a corner bit. So they're not giving anything away, have they?
Definitely not in that. If it had been panned out a wee bit more, maybe. And even then, if you look at the way they've even taken the picture, some of the pictures we will look at later on are of much better quality. This is obviously a reference to the potato cam, because the Warhammer logo is pixelated. It looks like somebody's took a photo of the photo on a screen and then uploaded it to the website.
Yeah, very much so. A lie, but with a truth hiding within it.
Definitely. Well, I hope so. There's no point in saying yes, no, maybe. It's.
Well,
I hope
so. As Alfarius once said, secrecy is our greatest weapon.
Yeah, he maybe should have told Rogel Dorn that before he cut both his hands off and then took his head with it. Wasn't the smartest one, was he?
Well, he was too smart. He was all too smart. And then Rogel said, "You're not needing those hands anymore, are you?" And then did a dooku on him.
Yep.
So the next one, Stomp Stomp. So here we've got a picture of a suspiciously Astartes pattern looking dreadnought leg or lower leg from, say, about the knee downwards. And it says Stomp Stomp. Seen this doing the rounds. Looks like a Heresy era dreadnought. Don't recognise it. Looks massive. Maybe Leviathan? Redemptors in 30k? Looks big. What do we reckon?
Yeah, I think this one has been literally torn to shreds already by everybody on the internet. It's definitely not a Leviathan, but it is well, some people are actually saying, I've heard some people actually say it is a Leviathan. To me, the knee pad's the giveaway.
The knee is unlike any dreadnought in 30k.
Yeah. There's also an extended piece of armor plate between the leg and the what would be toes.
Yep.
And you can see 4 plates covering almost almost like it's trying to protect the ankle inside.
It does, yeah. And that's unique. Unique's not the word. It's something we've not seen before.
Yeah.
Um,
So it could be tongue in cheek in the sense that the drawing's fake,
well, wait a
but we're
second.
getting a dreadnought.
Well, I think it's dreadnought. Let me just add a few observations on what it is
Mm-hmm.
and what it isn't. The toes are not Leviathan Dreadnought toes. Yeah. Well, the whole thing isn't Leviathan Dreadnought. I'll put an image on screen now showing the Leviathan next to this. This is very short wide. If you do the width to height ratio compared to the Leviathan, I mean, the Leviathan's pretty stocky, but this is even more stocky. You can see the armor plating on the toes is completely different. This is more like a Duradio. That is different even than a Duradio, because Duradio's got a very big front and back toe. And then
for the stability. Yeah.
The armor bit in the middle is different. The knee pad's different. It's bifurcated. And then the other thing is you can't see the groin or the weapons as much as you can in the Leviathan image. But if you look in the top left and top right of the Hearsay image, you can just see a little bit of something in both areas.
Yeah, almost like, as you say, the groin and either a weapon, a melee weapon or a shooty weapon pointing down.
And that suggests very different proportions as well to the Leviathan. So it's definitely not a Leviathan.
Mm-hmm. Here's a crazy speculation. Now, we know that people have been saying there's a rumor that we're getting a Saturnine Dreadnought. Now, I don't really want to say yay or nay to that, but what if they have, for the purposes of this game, went back to lore and found the prototype for the cross between a dreadnought and tactical dreadnought armor? Because they always said that Terminator armor tactical dreadnought came from prototypes of dreadnoughts and things.
Yeah.
So what if they're going back to that, and instead of it being called Saturnine pattern, because of the whole Saturnine thing and the age of that suit and stuff, if they're trying to say, oh, this was taken out of mothballs, it's a prototype of what would have been a dreadnought stroke a Terminator, and now we're bringing it out because we're running out of supplies and stuff, a bit like what they did with the Kratos.
Yeah.
I know that's a wild speculation, but it literally just came to me.
It's an interesting idea, and it fits, it could fit with how big it looks. It looks bigger than a Leviathan or any of the dreadnoughts we've got so far. Redemptor big, well, maybe it'd be bigger than a Redemptor. I don't know. I mean, I suppose when you think about big dreadnoughts in Heresy, we've got the Telemon, haven't we? Which is an absolute monster.
Yeah.
Maybe the Marines are getting something Telemon size, because I guess if the Custodes can have a supersized dreadnought, why can't the Astartes?
True.
There's a lot more Astartes to go in dreadnoughts.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be doctrinal or tactical reasons why, but
I don't know if I agree with that, though, from a lore point of view. It would be cool if we get it. I mean, I like Marine stuff regardless. But if Marines get everything the Custodes have, what makes the Custodes special? You know what I mean? I think certain things should be unique to certain armies. But we'll see.
Maybe so. I mean, the Custodes will always be the best when it comes to skill, and they'll always have the fanciest weapons and armor, won't they? There's a lot of parallels between the things Custodes and Marines have. They've both got power armored troops, they've both got Terminators, they've both got dreadnoughts, they've both got light and heavy tanks, haven't they? And boot carriers. So there's more parallels than you might imagine. So what do we think of this one? I think this is a truth.
Okay.
I think there is a new dreadnought here. The other thing I'll add to that is everybody loves dreadnoughts. They're great models, and people will always buy them because they're so much fun. So I think from a business point of view, the new dreadnought is a sound move.
I agree. While I am slightly skeptical about, especially considering the first picture we looked at was more about what's in the foreground, not in the background, I would agree that the plating and things is too unique, that it's either definitely reference to a new mark of dreadnought, or it's just something as obscure as you're getting a dreadnought regardless. But this is an early concept sketch of what a Leviathan ended up becoming, and that's why they're using it, because maybe nobody's seen it before. So it's designed to create speculation, when in truth the real thing is just meant to be there's a dreadnought.
True. The image could be a lie, but the text could be the truth. So the opposite to the last one.
Yeah.
That's a possibility we can't ignore when we're dealing with the Hydra. Okay. Good point there to finish out on. Okay, so let's move up. Green. So the next thing was the last thing from Thursday, the first day. Page is titled Hot News. We're hearing that the Horus Heresy new Ed box is definitely coming and features salamanders as the main faction. Unexpected, but we're here for it. Finally, some glory for our guys in green. And then it says push fit heresy, 3 question marks. Found this, thinking it's green for salamanders. GW usually use coloured sprues for push fit stuff, underworlds, etc. Thoughts on push fit minis in the heresy box? And then it's got a picture of a green sprue. Lots of eagle-eyed people on the social medias very quickly spotted that this is from
The Faultless Blades.
the new Emperor's Children, isn't it? Is that right?
It is, yeah.
And somebody either, and I'm not sure on this, either someone has done a very good job of recolouring a grey sprue digitally to green, or they've had one made for marketing purposes, because the actual production Emperor's Children are just in a standard grey plastic, aren't they?
They are. While they're going all out for the beams with the video and stuff, I think it's more probably just a digital colouring than wasting the time and the production to print one green sprue just to take a photo of a small corner.
I mean, it could be. It's difficult to tell. I'm not smart enough when it comes to looking at digital images. Oh, there is actually one. Actually, there is one little bit. If you zoom in, right, zoom in on the bottom right of the image.
Mm-hmm.
And can you see there's a little green flange that looks a little bit almost like someone's gone over with the painting?
Mm.
Is that a bit of flash? If we had someone who's very good at spotting maybe anti-aliasing effects at the edges of images, I might be able to tell us if this has been retouched or not. But yeah, look, now I zoom in on it. That bit there, I wonder if they put that in deliberately to show that it's fake. I just spotted that there. Actually, if you look at the top right, you can see another bit where it looks a little bit kind of a bit of an odd coloured light edge.
Yeah.
So I don't think they'll do push fit heresy. I just don't think that's part of the market, is it?
I genuinely don't think so. I know some people might think it's a great idea. When they started designing the push fit minis, they were designed for the younger crowd. And while they've done some push fit minis for maybe some of their standard games or their starter boxes, Heresy is a cut above. And I don't think they would do it for Heresy. They didn't do it for Old World.
No.
And I would put Heresy and the Old World sort of on that same
It is, yeah.
semi-standard, semi-specialist game.
It's kind of at the bigger spending, more serious hobbyist end of Games Workshop's offering, isn't it? So I think push fit is a lie. I think the photo is a lie. However, salamanders, I think that could be a truth, again, hiding within the lies.
I'm inclined to agree because it goes back to the Salamanders stroke Arm Warriors
transfer set in the command squad.
Yeah. Now, I'm still racking my brains. When the transfers first came out, I was racking my brains to actually figure out one battle where they actually fought each other that didn't include Istvan. You know, now they might make a new one up, just like they did for the Siege of Cathonia. But at this moment in time, apart from Istvan, I can't think of one, and I doubt they would go back to Istvan. I'd love them to, but considering all the books they've been doing recently, they don't like to tread ground on the pre-established 1.0 big black books.
It seems
I wouldn't see them going back.
I would probably say the balance of probability is they're more likely to be looking at Siege of Terror era and maybe even beyond that. But I'd say it's still maybe a 1 to 4 chance that they'll do something, go back to Istvan. We'll see. So that's yesterday's news. And today's news from Friday the 9th, we've got another 3 images. So we've got do the math. And this is like an objective marker. Number 2 in a crosshair with 18 on the frame number, 18 known legions, 2 missing. That can't be a coincidence, capital can't. What does it mean?
That's just an objective marker. That's if they're doing a core box, it's obviously just a starter box thing.
Do you recognise this from any kits they've done so far?
No, I don't actually. I'd have to really think about it, but I don't remember them ever doing plastic objective markers. They did a set years ago. Do you remember? They were metal and they had 1 to 6 on them, and they were in a little black box.
Yeah.
But I've never seen them do them in plastic for people to paint. That's like the kind of thing they do for Blood Bowl, where in the Blood Bowl sets they would have like the little tokens, the little hand symbols for each, sort of football team, and then the little balls, and everything's in grey, and you paint it all up. but I've never seen them do a 2 like that. That obviously looks more science fiction than,
It does.
sword and board.
Puts me in mind of some of the stuff from Space Marine going all the way back to the early days of Heresy. I mean, technically, I suppose you could say Space Marine was the first Space Marine from, was it 89 or 90? I'll have to put it on screen. It was the first proper Horus Heresy Space Marine game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got that feel to it. Looking at the sprue, it looks like it's quite well packaged, I mean, in amongst other parts. And that looks like the more modern sprues, which, they got very good at getting a lot of parts into the sprue estate, haven't they?
They have, yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, I think all the text is lies, but the photo, I think,
I think I agree. I think the text obviously is nonsense, but the picture of the objective marker just maybe confirms that in the little starter box or the starter box little booklet they normally do, maybe it's, here's 4 or 5 objectives or 6 objectives, and here's the little token, capture them. Because
yeah,
Heresy does love its objective-based games.
it does. Right, so maybe they're adding that to bring objective play to life more.
Yeah.
If there's a new iteration on the rules. Okay, moving to the next one. Have you seen this crest? Question mark, exclamation mark, question mark. Spotted. Anyone know what this is? It looks a bit like a Crux Terminatus without the skull. Campaign badge or something, maybe. New type of reinforcement stud. Previous big box had a Praetor, so we've seen a new design. Yeah, what is this?
Well, I'll throw out my speculation. It's not a Crux Terminatus, because that symbol is post the Heresy in most ways. Because the whole point of it is it's that it has a piece of the Emperor's armor, it's a symbol of office, and all that kind of stuff. It's basically you would call it the newer version of the Raptor Imperialis, which was for those who fought alongside the Emperor. This is like the post version. It looks to me like a shield generator in armor.
It does, yeah.
Almost like a not a Rosarius, like an invulnerable save for a Terminator plate, which leads into the are they Saturnine shoulder pads?
Well, indeed. The similarities to a Crux Terminatus are definitely there.
Yeah, it could be a proto version of what becomes the Crux.
And they love doing proto versions, don't they? The Angel's Tears Heresy Blood Angel miniatures, if you look at their shoulder badges, they are very in the style of what might have come before a Crux Terminatus, I thought. I remember I built some a couple of years back. I was like, whoa, gosh, that's a striking resemblance. This again, but I think this time it's more overt because it's 4 arms to it.
Yeah. Do you think it's a shield generator? Because it reminds me of void shield generators, or the things that were on the void shield generators, like on the Astraeus and things.
Flare
Except
shield.
this is
shield generators,
That's it. Yes, flare shield.
Yeah, it does have that look, doesn't it? Yeah, and I don't know what it is. I mean, I put an image on screen. I looked at this and then I did a sort of mental flip with it, and I couldn't help but notice how it reminded me of one of the pauldrons from the first released Terminator Marine, the Exo Armor model from 1988, I think. I think it was late 88, which is a Jez Goodwin sculpt, which is actually the second Terminator model, because the first one, which was released second, was a turtleback that Bob Naismith did. And Bob Naismith talked about that in an interview he did on YouTube. Just forget if it was last year or the year before. I don't know. It just did pop into my head. I don't know if it is. I'm not sure if it's got enough curve on it, but maybe, I don't know, maybe it's coincidence. Maybe it might be something. Maybe it's part of something bigger. I'm not sure. I really am.
It could be the Saturnine shoulder pad, or it could be the plate from potentially a new vehicle, or the rapier batteries, or they did mention in one of the rumors, somebody mentioned gun batteries, so it could be that if it's not the rapier. Yeah, but you're right in saying, though, about it looking, or, as you say, akin to the late 80s, early 90s Terminators. Let's think about Heresy 2.0. They did go back and reinvent RTB-01.
They did.
Is this reinvention of a classic? Is this the sort of thing they're going to try and do, that every time there's a reinvention of a classic design?
And they do love doing it. They're very aware of their design heritage. Even when they do something new, like a Primaris Marine, there's still a lot of nods to things that came before it in the design. And they do it all the time. And I suspect, I don't know, maybe that could be the case. I would love to get a reimaged model of the Exo Marine or as some people call them, although it's not confirmed, Saturnine Terminators. We know from, remember that article in White Dwarf about Terminators?
Yeah.
Was it last year or the year before?
I think it was last year, wasn't it?
Was it last year? And they put Saturnine Terminators on the timeline, but they came after Cataphracti, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder. I don't know. What is this then? Is this a meme? Is this a lie? Or is this a truth?
It could be, going back to the earlier random speculation I had, maybe they're turning exosuits into the prototype for tactical dreadnought armor.
Oh, that'd be interesting, yeah.
So it's a cross between, as you say, what would be called Saturnine and a new concept for prototype.
Yeah.
And it's
Or
all been brought out of mothball.
Or how about a repurposed suits from something else?
Excavating maybe, or something like that, like sort of excavation suits.
Yeah. Or as the original lore for Terminator armor was, it was based on exo armor or exosuits for working in extremely hostile environments. Maybe it's something that the needs of a heresy trying to meet the demands of the war. I don't know. I think there's lies in there, and I think there's a truth, but I'm not sure what.
I suppose the truth is the image.
Yeah.
I don't recognize that piece of plastic.
Yeah.
So it's something,
I've not seen anyone ID it yet. And normal, like with the green sprue, that very quickly people had ID'd it on the interwebs.
Yeah. Same with the box set in the background of the first image. Nobody has ID'd that background. So
all this marker. So the fact this hasn't been ID'd, it's it's something new. Is it a Terminator or is it a Dreadnought or something else? We will find out.
Yeah.
Then there's a little text bit that says Flame Weapons FTW for the win. Hearing flame templates are doubling in size. Must be to give the salamanders a big push as poster boys for the new edition. Fire change? Bring me the heavy flamer. I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, it lacks an image. All the other text came with a wee bit of an image. This one didn't. I don't think they're going to double the size of a flame template, which they just brought back for 2. Well, I wouldn't say brought back for 2.0, but you know what I mean. For people who maybe played it in 40k, hadn't used it, if they went into 8th onwards and didn't maybe play Heresy, and then they went and refound their old equipment. To redo the templates, I don't think so. I think this is just another reference to the Salamanders and their love of fire.
So that's 2 references to the salamanders, yeah. So that, again, there's a truth within a lie, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Post-production, Leaky Cheese here. Obviously, it occurred to me after we'd recorded this that the heavy flamer is a reference to the famous GIF. And then finally, the most recent and last thing is tactical pouch confirmed. And here we've got a photo of, pouch on a sprue, which appears to contain 2 disc-like objects. And it says, found a sprue with a pouch on. Don't recognise it. Anyone know if new or not? It's completely separate piece and must be an option / points costed. Grenades? New extra ammo mechanic? ? So we've got another new bit here that hasn't been ID'd. I don't recognise it. You?
No, it's definitely new though. When I first saw this picture, I went and grabbed the Sergeant Upgrade sprue and the Assault Marine sprue and looked at the holsters and the pouches. It has identical triangular style clasps as all the new design pouches, but the equipment inside it is new, whether that's a mine or a grenade or some sort of demo charge. I don't know.
That's a good spot, though, yeah. I'll put a picture on to show the viewers what you're referring to there. That's a very astute spot, that, with the clasp size. So there's some common design language there, isn't there?
Definitely, yeah. Just like they've done it with all the previous in 2.0, when we first saw Fafnir Ran, and everyone was like, okay, that's an interesting look at his Mark III. And then when we got the plastic Mark IIIs, you and I were able to look at it and go, the plates don't fold over each other. You can see all the design similarities between the new plastic Mark III and Fafnir, even though he was out a year beforehand. In this instance, yes, I think this is from the new sprue. Potential tactical upgrade or personnel upgrade.
So,
or it's just something they put on the back, like all the random pouches you do have, they're just there to look pretty.
But I think on that, it does say it's a completely separate piece and must be an option / points cost. And I think when we were chatting over messaging earlier, we had a bit of back and forth, and I ended up having a look in the rules to see what pieces of marine war gear in the grenade / thrown bang thing didn't have a part yet in the new range. And we came up with 4, didn't we? And we had hand grenades as carried, for example, by destroyers, phosphex bombs, if you can say it, as carried by destroyers or siege masters, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's some others as well. Breacher charges as carried by breacher marines, surprise, surprise. And then finally, shroud bombs as carried by recon squads or reconnaissance squads. So of those 4, I don't think it's a rad grenade because they've already got quite a distinct modelled look, which I think they've put on some more recent models. So I don't think it's that. I don't think it's a phosphex bomb.
No.
I don't know why. I just don't think it looks right. Shroud bomb? Nah.
No.
But a breaching charge?
Yeah, it's got that discus look to it. Definitely makes you think like a breaching charge.
Now, and I was really swatting up here. I went and read the rules on how breaching charges work in New Heresy, and it changed because in Heresy 1, a breacher charge, it was like a giant satchel charge you'd lob.
Okay.
In New Heresy, it's a melee weapon, and it's a bit like a variant on a melter bomb. It's like a melter bomb, but for destroying buildings.
Okay.
It's kind of like that. It's not quite as good as a melter bomb, but it still packs a heck of a punch. So now you place your breacher charges and in melee phase, initiative step 1, and then you get like a really high strength and low AP attack.
Mm-hmm.
And I think these just look like there could be a mine that you slap onto something for it to go bang.
That would suit the way you described that there about it being good for buildings. That would actually suit the Armed Warriors Legion trait quite well.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, the Legion trait might change. Let's not even go there yet. If we take this rumor that it's not technically 3.0, it's more like a 2.5, and none of the black books are changing. Imagine in a happy world, none of our black books are changing. It's just the rule book and a couple of tweaks. Then that would be perfect for them with their Legion trait of destroying buildings.
It would, yeah. And the follow-on would be, it would be a component from a breacher squad kit, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Or a potential upgrade for their Legion if they're going to be in the box set.
But I think if they put any models in the box set, they will be like they've done before. They'll play well as a Legion that they're kind of presented as, but it will also be agnostic, so you can buy it and use it for anything.
Yeah.
But it will be very on theme. And we've not got a new breacher squad in plastic, so that will be a good fit there as well.
Yeah. I will say one more thing just before we jump on. I might be reading too much into this, but as you said, it does say it's a completely separate piece, so it must be an option. Now, you were thinking about that adding it to the game system. I thought of that when I originally heard of it, like the Sergeant upgrade sprue, which is technically a completely separate piece because it always has to be added into all the respective box sets. But it is its own independent sprue with its own independent code. The argument could be made if they wanted, they could flog it separately.
Yeah, I mean, if that were the case, there'd be some new options for sergeants, because at the moment sergeants are armed like the same as the Marines they command, with most of them having the option of taking melter bombs as well.
Yeah.
I think maybe all of them get the option of melter bombs if the squad doesn't already get them.
Because to be precise, the sprue in question, I'm actually holding it here because I was building some world leaders, it does say accessory A. So could that be accessory B?
Ooh.
You see what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean, yeah. Accessory B. Ooh, yeah.
Because all the sprues are coded by letter. So if that one was called accessory A, the melee weapons weren't called accessory A, B, C, or D. They were melee weapon A, B, C.
Yeah.
Command squad was command squad A. So accessories A, why give it an A if it's only going to be one?
It might depend how they do a prospective breacher squad set. So do they do it like the assault squad, where it had its own dedicated set of torsos and backpacks? Or do they go with an approach like, say, the despoiler squad or any of the heavy weapon or tactical support squads or the command squad, where you use a base sort of tactical chassis, let's call it, figure.
Yeah.
And then just stick the appropriate arms and other equipment onto it.
I think that's what they will go with. As much as I would love to see a dedicated sprue, I think they'll just go for the accessories that will match any armor set, because you'll always get somebody who will whinge when we get the breachers that it doesn't match the armor that they wanted.
Yeah.
Like imagine they did it and somebody looked at it and went, okay, let's stick close to lore, breachers are always heavy, nasty. Let's go for 2 or 3.
Mm.
And someone was like, but I want it in 6. That's
Yeah.
not fair. Whinge, whinge, whinge.
Mm.
Accessories are much better because you can
Yeah.
fire it on any suit of armor.
Yeah.
Nobody complains.
That's the way I hope they do it. We'll see which it is. So I think then, based on that, this is probably true, the most true out of all these, isn't it?
I would say so, yes.
Yeah.
I personally think the clasps are the giveaway. If
Mm.
you look enough at the frames and you look enough at the components that we have in 2.0, they've kept the uniform triangular style clasps for all of the pouches, from the Assault Marine to the Mark 3s to the Mark 2s to the Command Squad.
Yeah.
All of them. Sorry, Mark 2s, what I say?
Yeah.
Mark 6s. You know,
Yeah. No. Good point. Good point.
even on the bikes, even on the jet bikes, all the
Yeah.
pouches had the same clasps.
No, I think that's a good observation. So, and that wraps it up then. That is all the Horus Hearsay we have had so far. I mean, we're only 2 days in, and that's quite a bit. So let's wrap up a few thoughts. I mean, something's definitely happening with the Heresy this year, and it's going to be the big summer thing, I think.
I would say so. They always tended to schedule their box sets for a release in early to mid July to early August.
Mm.
And while I don't have the figures in front of me, I'm sure if somebody wants to go back in the comments, they can look back over the past 5 years.
Yeah.
And you will see that all the major boxes from 10th to AOS to the previous edition to 9th to AOS 1.0, 2.0 to even
Yeah.
Heresy itself, you will see that they always tend to base it around UK summertime.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, sorry, I'll rephrase that, GB summertime, because here in Northern Ireland, the kids get out earlier.
They do, yeah. I think the timing's right.
I'm going to go for something a bit different, and I'm going to take this from several sources. So, while I might be wrong, and you can give your own speculation a time frame once I'm done, I'm going to go for a few wee things that I've put on, no tinfoil hat, none of that, but a few wee things I've seen have tied one date together for me as either the release date or the pre-order date.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go for Saturday, the 12th of July.
Okay. It's very specific.
Yeah. So the reason being, Warhammer World itself has confirmed that some of the days before that, Section 2 is closed for maintenance.
Right.
Usually, that means they're putting new minis in. And it's closed, I believe, the 9th, the 10th, and the 11th. Either all of those 3 or at least the 10th and the 11th. But it's definitely closed, so nobody has access. So if they're going to throw new minis in for a release day or a pre-order day, that's the perfect time.
Yeah.
Also, previous editions of Warhammer and AOS have been released around or pre-ordered around the 12th of July.
They have, yeah.
From working in the store, for people who may not be aware, the 12th of July in Northern Ireland is considered a public holiday.
Yes.
For certain people, and as such, a lot of the shops in Northern Ireland close. That always affected Games Workshop because they didn't close except for Easter Sunday and Christmas Day. They were the only ever 2 days you had confirmed off. They didn't do bank holidays. Okay, so it always really affected the staff and our sales when you'd get a pre-order on a day that we knew we were the only one in the whole planet that had to close.
Yeah.
Just purely for the sake of the day itself. You can read into that, people who maybe are from here, come what may, fair enough. So that would sort of be a kick in the teeth from the sales point of view. But obviously, Games Workshop's headquarters, we're not going to sacrifice a big pre-order release day for one store. Now, technically 2, because there's one opened in Derry, Londonderry.
Right. So that is why you think July 12th?
Yeah, I'm thinking I could be quite early because you were saying August 3rd, even though that's a Sunday. But I'm thinking either July the 12th will either be the pre-order day, if not the release day. And while I would probably think pre-order more than release, considering what you were speaking about earlier on about the joke in the background where they mentioned the 24th, and I said, well, it's a Tuesday, the 20th is a Saturday.
24th of 6, yeah.
Yeah. And every time they do a massive box release, same thing they did with Heresy, AOS 40k, and Old World. It's a 2-week pre-order, not a 1 week. Now, technically, all the pre-orders now are 2 weeks. Back in the day, pre-2023, it was a 1 week.
Yeah, 24th. I mean, they normally drop the big summer stuff. It's either late May or sometime in June, isn't it? So, yeah, it's hard to know.
Well, you never know. If it is the pre-order day and they want to maximize sales, here's another wild theory. Pre-order the 12th with a 3-week release day for the 2nd of August, which is the Saturday. And maybe the reason why people have been told you're not allowed off because of the Sunday, it could be that they have events to run on the Saturday and the Sunday to drum up hype for the boxes.
Could be, it's interesting.
It's not beyond them to do a 3-week. What was the last time they did a 3-week? Indomitus, wasn't it? Was it 3-week? Or was that a 4-week pre-order?
No, Dominatus wasn't that long. I think it was only 2 weeks, even given the pandemic that was going on at the time.
Yeah. I could have swore something's been 3 weeks, though. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know there was something that was 3 weeks.
Was it Scaventide?
Yes. Scaventide was 3 weeks. Yeah.
It's going to be something in that window, isn't it? Sort of in the first half of May at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah.
A third of the way into May. I don't know. It's always hard to pin down, but I would say sometime in June or July, it'll land. I'll tell you what I think. I think we will probably find out what's really happening within a month. Yeah.
You have the Dallas Open coming up on the 22nd.
Ooh, 22nd of May.
Yep.
Oh,
Thursday night.
Oh, it's a Thursday. Right. Okay, I'm going with that. They're going to drop it at the Dallas Open.
Yeah. No, see, that to me makes perfect sense, because if they're going to run this viral marketing campaign with, say, 1 or 2 pictures and a load of text every 2 days or potentially every day, a week and a bit is perfect, because the longer you do it, the people are going to get bored. Let's be honest. Attention spans are not really great. And people are going to be like, seriously, are they still dropping crap? And it's been 3 weeks. I'm bored now. Will you just hurry up and show me the stuff? Whereas today's the 9th, 22nd is the Dallas Open. That's a week and a bit. Perfect time to drop 2 wee images a day, build up hype. Say, as usual, it's obviously in Dallas, so the video for people in the UK will probably be like 3 a.m. or something. They'll have a series of previews, and then, as usual, they'll save the best for last, CG trailer.
Yeah.
Just like they did with 8th, 9th, and 10th of 40k, that is, sorry.
Okay, so there you go. Some concrete predictions there.
I'm going to have egg on my face now, aren't I, with none of these come true.
I mean, the thing is, the great thing about predictions is as long as we make something which is sensible, it doesn't matter if it's wrong.
That's true.
Like we always used to say in planning, it's great because it's one job where you're allowed to make mistakes. As long as you're close enough, it doesn't matter if it's not exact.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've definitely dissected the hearsay of the Horus type quite thoroughly there. I think that's been a good chat, don't you?
Definitely, yeah. No, that was good fun. It's always fun to speculate. It
is, and speculation is free and harmless and doesn't cost anything because it's free. I've said that 3 times now. So we will see where this goes, and, well, depending on what happens, we may revisit this with another episode of Legion of Cheese, mightn't we, as the time goes on?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, if my wild theory is true that every 2 to 3 days, or potentially every day, we're going to get an image or 2, by the next time we have a chat, there could be a dozen new images for us to tear apart.
Hopefully so.
Yeah. I hope they keep it going.
Well, fascinating discussion there, Jay. Thank you for joining me again to talk some heresy.
No problem, mate. It's always good to be on.
I think this year is going to become a very interesting one for the heresy, and who knows what's going to bring. We won't tackle the subject of will there be a new edition until a later episode, because that is a Pandora's box. But
very much so.
Viewers, thank you ever so much for listening today. I hope you found this an interesting and thought-provoking discussion. As always, please do share your thoughts and observations in the comment section. We'll be interested to hear.
Yeah, and if anybody does find where that box came from, please enlighten me.
Absolutely.
Because, the more we can sort of figure these things out, the better.
Absolutely, yes. Don't forget to sign off as Alpharius if you are indeed an operative of the 20th.
Oh, yes. Alpha Effort Omega 3, this is Alpharius.
Hydra Dominatus, as I say. Cool. Right, well, that's all for now. So, yeah, thank you all very much, and we will speak to you again soon.
Yep. Bye-bye now.